Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. My name's William. This is Assetto Corsa Competizione, and today we're going to be driving the Ferrari 488 GT3 around the Nurburgring. As always with this, I will have a hot lap for you, and then the setup last. There'll be some suggestions, some tweaks, some adjustments you can potentially make to the setup if you do not like it exactly the way I drove it. There'll be some good information in the setup portion of the video to potentially help you out. As always with this, guys, if you like it, if you want to see more of this stuff or you appreciate this kind of stuff, liking the video helps me out a ton. I appreciate all the support you guys have shown me, and I want to continue doing this and helping as many people as I can. And liking the video definitely does help me do that just because of the way YouTube works. So I appreciate that, guys. I'll go ahead and shut up, and we'll get on into the hot lap, and I'll be back with you guys to talk over the setup. Enjoy. Alright everyone, that was a hot lap around the Nürburgring in the Ferrari 488 GT3. Managed a 154.327. Go ahead and look at the timetables real quick. All purple sectors. Not terribly surprised, could have gone a little bit faster in Sector 1. Pretty good Sector 2 and really good Sector 3. I kept messing up the very final corner. A little bit sloppy through Sector 1, so definitely still more time there. Just kind of missing the apexes, overdriving the entries, and kind of getting the car sliding because of it. So more time in it for sure, but ultimately this was the setup that we're going to get into is the best balance I could find. This car either understeered like a pig or handled its weight balance or weight transfer completely terribly, like completely unloading the rear on turn in or not setting any nose or any weight on the nose and understeering off. But anyways, we started with the aggressive preset, like I said. The aggressive preset's just really understeery, and then whenever you start to tweak it, you can really get into some crazy stuff. But this is what I wound up with, aiming for about 28 psi hot on the front, a little bit less on the rear. Increase the rear pressure closer to 28 psi if you want a little bit more sharpness out of the rear of the car. If you want a little bit more traction out of the rear of the car, lower the tire pressure just a little bit. We kept our cambers. I think this is actually close to, if not the standard camber. I kind of played around with it a little bit and just felt like I was getting further and further away from what I wanted anytime I changed it. So went back to it. I took a little bit of toe out of the front of the car because the nose can be quite pointy on initial turn-in once you start messing with the car. to try and get it to stop understeering. It just seems like you can get it to do aggressively one thing or the other. You can't quite find that happy medium, but ultimately that's kind of what I think I found here. Traction control on 2, ABS on 2, and then TC2 on 5. I know a lot of people, you're supposed to kind of keep TC2 close to traction control, but every single time I went with traction control 2 with TC2 on 2, it's a little too there's not enough support for what I want. The traction control doesn't kick in as much as I would want it to. I have a lead foot. I'm sure there's many of us out there that don't necessarily have the greatest throttle control, so I tried increasing traction control to get it to cut earlier or interfere earlier, let it slip less, and whenever I did that, it was just way too aggressive on when it wanted to cut in. So there was like no real fine balance. So ultimately what I wound up doing was going just more aggressive with traction control 2, which basically it cuts in whenever traction control 1 traction control decides that it's spinning too much, but then it steps in or it cuts more aggressively, which is ultimately what I wound up liking. So you can play with that a little bit if you want. I just kind of butchered it. Aries has a really nice video kind of explaining the difference between these two, if you guys haven't checked that out already. The brake pad compound front and rear on 2, and then onto the suspension. So first things first, moving the brake bias way further back really helped the braking performance for me in this car. It's pretty typical starting with the aggressive presets. They're a little bit too far forward for what I like anyways, so I move it back. I tested as far back as 44, or not 44, 54.6, I believe. Yeah, 54.6. Really, 55.2, I got the best braking performance. If I wanted to be able to trail brake a little bit more, I would probably go 54.8, and I wouldn't go any lower than that. I felt like I was giving up straight line, like heavy braking. I was giving up performance anywhere below 55.2, so that's why I wound up on that. On the wheel rates, this car seemed to like a stiffer rear end than a front end. Once again, just trying to get rid of some of that understeer in the front of the car. It just felt like it needed a little bit more mechanical grip on the front, and then drastically reduced the front anti-roll bar. Normally I'd want to keep that a little bit stiff to kind of give the car a sharp turn in and a little bit of security in the middle of the corner. But I found in this car anyways, through driving at this track, I've been working on this setup for a couple days actually, and keeping the front anti-roll bar and the rear anti-roll bar pretty close together on this really eliminated a lot of the excess mid-corner rotation I was getting. Probably something down to the way the car's transferring its weight around. Maybe something could be improved elsewhere on the setup to get rid of that, but keeping the front anti-roll bar and the rear anti-roll bar close together really helped mitigate that. And basically, the stiffer the front anti-roll bar, I found there was more mid-corner rotation to the point to where it can really just snap around on you. So this has a little bit of mid-corner rotation in it like that. So if it's rotating a little bit too much in the middle of the corner for you, you can just decrease the front anti-roll bar a little bit. And then if you want to go, like I played with these balances kind of basically from 2 with this on like 4, and then up to basically like the rear anti-roll bar on 8 and the front on 12. If you keep them close together, you'll basically kind of have the same balance. It's just once you start getting the rear stiff to a certain point, you'll get a lot of oversteer on exit of the corner. So wanting to keep it a little bit soft for that reason. Also on the preload, this is softer, or not softer, less preload than the original. You can definitely make more work as well. I had tested it on 220 to try, and whenever I was really struggling with the kind of snappiness that I was getting, the over rotation, like I said, this car is either understeer city or oversteering you off into a wall. So more preload definitely helped initially, but out of the corner, you're just on the traction control the entire time. And if you want to free the car up, you kind of need to take a big swing at the or at the preload, in my opinion. So if you're wanting to free the car up on initial turn in, middle of the corner kind of thing, you probably want to go ahead and jump all the way down to 80 to about 50 or so, like somewhere in that range is where you're going to find it. If you just drop it down to about 100, the whole car just kind of doesn't really know. It feels very numb. It doesn't really know what it's doing uh, anywhere in the corner. So just a little tip like that. If you want to free the car up on turn in and in the middle of the corner, uh, go ahead and reduce this preload differential value to about 80. And if you still want to free it up more, reduce it even further. Like I said, I tested all the way down to 40, and ultimately I wound up on 130 because it felt safer. I felt like lower was a little bit faster though, if you want to go ahead and test that. Here's the damper values. I'm not really going to talk about these too much. They're a little bit off from what I would typically do, but I will say this fast bump on the rear, the second I put this to 0, all of the curbs became much more manageable for me around the track. So 0 fast bump on the rear definitely improved the feel. You could try it on the front as well if you're struggling anywhere. It is a little harsh hitting the curbs, but it doesn't dramatically upset the car. It just it really lets you know that you hit them with the way it's set up on the front. And then onto the aero. This is what I was struggling with the most. This car just feels really sensitive to rear ride height adjustments. So like the difference between 59 and 60, 59 millimeters on the rear, it understeers quite a lot through both the middle of like medium speed corners and then entry to high speed corners, which there's a few on this track. 60 was about the best balance I could get, and I know if I could go higher, if you could hang on to it. 62 was pretty darn fast. Whenever I was testing for my for this setup the other day, I almost set a 53 on 62 millimeters on the rear, but it is extremely sketchy to drive like that. So maybe if you want to try that, click more wing or something along those lines. But like I said, it's just a millimeter here or there can really change the aero balance of this car. You know, over an entire lap and in corners that you wouldn't really necessarily expect it to either. So that's the setup anyways, guys. As always, if you like this, if it helps you out, give the video a like. It helps me out a ton. Subscribe, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. If you give it a try, let me know how you get on with it in the comments below. Try and read them all. If you have any questions or want some help or whatever, you can put it down there and I'll try and get back to you if I can. As always, guys, I appreciate all the support, and I really do hope that this can help you out and you can get out there and have some confidence driving this thing around track. So until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.